Okay, now let's talk about some objects, pots and pans. So the rules for pots and pans applies to almost every metal object. Metal to the exclusion of glass, Pyrex, Corningware. We're going to talk about metal. So a regular metal pot, it can be brass, it can be copper, it can be stainless steel, sheet metal, whatever your pot is made out of, if it's metal, so metal can be koshered. And you kosher metal first thing is, if you have a Pesach pot, you don't need to kosher it. But if something happened to it, or you have one that you used for during the year and you want to kosher it for Pesach, you're allowed to do so. And the way that it's done is that if it's a small pot, then you would heat up a large pot, a large Passover pot, and you would wait till the water boils. This is the same as koshering it. You wait till the water boils, then you should take a rock, which is a heated rock that you've heated in your home, and you drop it into the pot. What that will do is cause the temperature to rise a slight amount above the normal boiling level, and it'll also pour over. So you have to be prepared for that. It's going to make a little bit of a mess. After that's happened, while it's still on the fire and boiling, you can drop your pot into that, then your pot becomes kosher for Pesach, 100% in parv, and you can use it any way you want.
You can drop your pot in what?
Into the water that I just described. What?
Where's it pouring in? Through?
No, it just overflows a bit. That's all. You have a pot full of water. Now you're dropping another pot into it.
Oh, I see.
A smaller pot. Now if you have a big pot.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
You're dropping a pot in it's a meat pot. The pot is still parv, the one that you dropped into.
Yes,
even though
it
the
becomes
pot that you
parv.
used
Even
was
if
a
it
meat
wasn't
pot.
parv, it is now. If it was parv, it stays parv. If it wasn't parv, it becomes parv.
Even though
Because there's nothing in it anymore.
But you're putting it in a meat.
Correct, but there's nothing in it anymore. The water takes everything out. So that becomes, that's a new pot. So now, that same thing applies with silverware. If you want to kosher metal silverware. What?
Even if there's stains on it?
As long as you've cleaned it and it's not food. It's just a
So what
stain.
happens to pots that have the plastic handles?
So we'll deal with handles in a minute. So we've got the pots and the pans that are metal. You can dunk them that way, or if it's a large pot, let's say you want to buy a big pot for soup. You need a real big pot, right? And you have one, but you used it sometime. So now you want to make it for Pesach. So then that pot, you do exactly what I described before. You fill it with water, you drop the heated rock in it, though some of the water will pour over. What happens when some of that water pours over is that now the boiling water goes on the outside of the pot. That's what it's doing. So now the pot itself becomes kosher. That pot the big pot now becomes a kosher pot. And therefore you can use it in such a way. You just have to make sure it was clean. You then put it on the fire filled with water to the top. You drop the heated stone into it. When the water overflows, you can turn off the fire and just pour out the water or let it cool. And then you've got a kosher pot.
What kind of stone do you recommend or rock, and where do you recommend getting it? And also, how do you heat up that stone?
I don't know much about where to find rocks other than my backyard.
Yeah.
That's where
Okay. And how big does that rock have to be?
It has to be large enough that it'll displace water.
Okay.
So it should be, like bigger than a handful,
And
like
how
2
do you
hands.
heat that up? Do you just
Put it in your oven.
burner? Or?
I wouldn't put it on a burner. I don't know what that'll do, but I'd put it in your oven. Just let it heat up, and then you take it out with a mitt and drop it in. Be careful. You're dealing with it's like science, You don't know what's going to happen. It's going to explode. It won't really explode, but the water will come all over, and you can get burnt very badly if you're not careful.
Kids nearby.
Right. So you want to make sure that you're doing this in a safe method. Now, it is very common for people to kosher small objects by using a pot like this. Let's say you want to use silver Kiddush cups, and you've got a number of silver Kiddush cups that you use during the year. You can kosher them just by dropping them into that pot of water while it's still on the fire. So you can... What?
Still need the rock for that.
Well, you're not going to reach in and take it out.
No, but you have to have a rock going in your country.
In order to kosher the pot that you have, you have to have a rock in it. Otherwise, that pot that you're using is not going to be kosher. Then you're just making everything treif. Okay? The big pot that you're using, you have to drop a rock in.
That's what makes the pot kosher.
And then
The big pot becomes kosher. If you would go and take a Pesach pot from your house and fill it with water and drop a spoon in it, then that, without a rock, then that will become a Pesach spoon. But if you have a chametz pot and you want to make that pot Pesach, you got to drop the rock in it. Okay?
For normal, when it's not Pesach, if you want to catch something, then to put the
If
rock
you
in.
want to kosher that pot for anything, you got to drop a rock into that pot, or that pot won't be kosher.
No, but normally, what she's asking.
But if you're using a kosher pot, then you don't have to do it. If
Yeah.
the pot's not kosher, you have to do it. Okay?
Oh.
So now this, you can drop in spoons, you can keep dropping spoons, you can drop in silver Kiddush cups, you can drop in anything that is totally metal.
So
Totally
new
metal.
dishes, you just have to go to the mikvah and then it's kosher.
Yeah, we'll get to them.
Okay.
Okay? So that's metal, yes.
After taking them out from the pot, do you have to put them in a cold water?
No.
Or metal you don't have to?
No, you don't have to. You just do whatever it is that you might want to do with your pots, but you don't. I would just wait till it cools down.
Not kosher. I think someone taking non-kosher
Right.
dishes and your kosher.
Okay, so now that's silverware, pots, and pans. Now, kitchen knives and serving utensils. The issue with those are the same issue with pots with handles. The problem with it is if you can take a pot with a handle, take the pot off, you can kosher the pot. Take the handle off, you can kosher the pot. If you can't, like on many knives, where it's added to the knife, it's a handle of the knife, it's not part of the knife, it's not seamless, it's something added to it, so you can't kosher that knife for Pesach because of all of the things, because of the pressure you use on that knife, all of the things that get in underneath the handle, it's no longer considered like one object now. If you have a knife where they take they make a metal knife with a metal handle that's one piece, then of course you can do that. But if it's separate pieces and it's a different substance like this hard plastic that most of them are, or wood, so then it makes it not possible to kosher because you can't really take them off very well, and food stuff, because of the pressure of how you use it and the heat that you use when you wash them, it will very well have things underneath. So we do not kosher anything that has a handle like that unless you can take the handle off and then clean the handle or use it without the handle. So in the case of knives and spatulas, those types of things, if you use it for chametz, you can't make it for Pesach again, right? Because of that problem. So it's mostly common with kitchen knives. That's the common place that you find it, with good kitchen knives. You can't really do anything about those. So you have to have special ones for Pesach, or ones that are made out of all metal, that the handles don't come off. If they're made out of all metal and the handle does come off, you'd have to take it off and clean it. Then you can put it back on. But most commonly, if you have to buy something for Pesach, these are the area that you would buy, because not much you can do. See, in general, today the custom is to buy as little, to kosher as little as possible. Not to, like, I remember when I was a kid, my mother used to kosher her whole kitchen. Like, we'd have, like, pots, I don't know what she would do with them. And she would have, 200 glasses and, 1,000 spoons. I don't know what she'd do all this stuff. There wasn't that many people in the city we lived in. But she koshered everything. It would go on for weeks in our house. I remember after Pesach, it would take half a day to move everything up and down and move things around. But today, it's really not the custom to kosher things. It's really to purchase the items that you need and to save them. Now, some people don't have the means for that. When you don't have the means, then we can be lenient and more lenient, depending on the situation, and sometimes it's so lenient that you have to ask privately the questions. But in general, we try not to kosher a lot of things when it comes to utensils. If you need to, there's a way, as I showed you, but we minimize that. Okay, glasses and glassware. The custom is not to kosher glasses, even though literally you're allowed to. If there's a financial need, if there's a special need, you'd have to speak privately to me about it, and we could probably do something. But in general, there is a way of koshering glasses for Passover, but it's just not done anymore. All of the people I've spoken to, all of the rabbis, have strongly suggested that we don't use it. How it used to be done, just for your knowledge, is they used to soak it in water. They used to take like a bathtub, fill it up with water, put the glasses into it. Every day, every 24 hours, you'd empty the water and refill it. You do that for 3 days, and it becomes kosher. The truth is, glass does not absorb. Right? This is a law. We know glass does not absorb. Therefore, really, you could use glass for milk, for meat, for Pesach, for the year. You really could, but we don't. We don't switch milk to meat during the year with glasses, and we don't use it for Pesach. But the letter of the law, if you would come to me and I did it, it happened, and what do I do? What do I have to do? I have to do tshuva. By mistake, we used our weekday glasses. You wouldn't have to do tshuva. You made a mistake. You should try not to make the mistake. But in general, if they hadn't been used for a while and they were clean, then they will not be a problem. Right? It's just that we don't do it. All right, tablecloths, dish towels, anything made out of cloth that you use in your kitchen, you can wash in your washing machine, and it's kosher for Passover. You can switch. It can be switched meat to meat, meat to milk, Passover to a year, but we do have another law that says that one should have an identifying mark on these objects to specify what it is. It's because when you're using, let's say, a dish towel, and you're using it for meat, and you usually use it for milk, but today you're using it for meat, it's very simple for someone to now take that dish towel, which has meat in it, because you just cleaned a pot and it has absorbed meat, and use it for milk, and now you've got a problem, right? So therefore, the custom is that you designate meat for meat and milk for milk and Pesach for Pesach. But if you don't, you need tablecloths, you need towels, then don't switch between milk and meat, but you can use them for Pesach simply by washing them in your washing machine. Because anything that was in it is now gone. It's no longer a problem. So that's tablecloths, that's towels, right? Everything like that would not be a problem. I think the only thing you probably use are tablecloths and dish towels as far as your kitchen is concerned. Bath towels, washing towels, all that, there's no issue. We don't even have to discuss it. Yes?
I would like this big tablecloths or like that are like plastic.
So those you have to have kosher for everything you do. You have to have separate ones because plastic does retain, and we do not have an ability to take to kosher plastic. Plastic does not become kosher. So if it became treif, it's treif. If it's dairy, it's dairy. Whatever it is, it is. Okay, so you need to use cloth in that case. Okay, coffee makers. So coffee makers, the biggest problem with a coffee maker is not as much the coffee as the cleaning. Coffee makers are cleaned with either vinegar, usually, or with some type of substance that you buy from the store to clean your coffee maker, which is vinegar, with some other stuff, although it doesn't say that. Vinegar is chametz, right? So you can't use it. Also, there are coffees, quite a few coffees that when you buy, we talked about this last week, when you go to the store to buy coffee, you have to buy kosher for Passover coffee. If you're buying in a can, like Maxwell House or Folgers, because they use preservatives. Preservatives often are kitnias or chametz. Therefore, by using that in your coffee maker, it becomes chametz. Well, they have both. They have both, but in November they probably don't have any kosher ones. So, and you've used it because we don't think about it. Who thinks about it? Flavoring for any coffee with flavoring is going to have chametz or kitnias in it for sure. There's no flavorings that you can use. So it all can affect your coffee maker. When you clean your coffee maker itself, you can have a problem. When you clean the what do you call it? Where the coffee goes into, right? The carafe. Is that the word? All right, so the pot, those also you weren't careful with that necessarily, and it also would be chametz. So if you want coffee, there are two. I'll give you two options that are the simplest outside of instant. Number one is what they call a bodum. A bodum is a French press. You're allowed to use that on Yom Tov, where you put uncooked coffee grounds in it, right? Just coffee, and you add water, and then you push down on the plunger. You've probably seen them in restaurants. What? It has to be a Pesach one. But they're less than $25, or $15, $12, $10 you can get them for, and you're allowed to use that on Yom Tov, and you're allowed to have, so any day except Shabbos you can use that, and it's perfectly acceptable on Pesach, so that's one way of having it. Another one is to buy another coffee maker. Today you can get them for also $25, $30, and just save it from year to year, and use it only on Pesach. And you have it. You can use that. A coffee maker, of course, you can only use during the week. You can't use it on Yom Tov because you can't turn it on and off, right? But the other one you can use. So like in our house, we have a lot of coffee and a lot of company, so we have both. So for weekdays, I have a coffee maker, and on Yom Tov, I have one of these French press things that we use, a big one, so that we can make for people. So you can do that, but you have to make sure your coffee is kosher for Pesach. There are coffees you can get that are locally roasted, that do not need certification. If it's important to you, you speak to me about privately, I'll tell you some places. But otherwise, you can go into the store and you can buy coffee that is certified kosher, but your coffee maker can be an issue. The hot water urn has always been an interesting one. Every year I hear a different answer to this. A hot water urn basically is this hot water thing you have sitting on in your kitchen, right? In general, we don't usually clean them with other objects. We don't throw them into the sink with dirty dishes. We don't put it in the dishwasher because it'll be ruined. So in general, since it's only used for water, so the opinions range from you can use it to you can use it, but you should cover the spigot after koshering the spigot. And the way the spigot where the water comes out of, which is a hard plastic, in reality we really can't kosher it, but we also know that only water has been in it. So there, if you pour boiling water on it, then you'll have koshered it to the best of our ability. And then you can cover it so that nothing would actually touch your cups when you do it. So you can leave a hole, of course, where the water comes out, but cover around it, and then you can use it. That's if you need to. Otherwise, you buy a hot water urn. Again, it's not very expensive, and it saves you this problem. But if you want to, you can. What? Yeah.
No.
A big one?
I got a big one at Walmart for $65. It's a pump.
Yeah, that's a fancy one already. You can get a cheap one for 20.
Still a small one.
Right. What?
They sell it $45 at King, 35.
That's the aluminum one.
30 cups.
Right, but remember, you're only using it a week. You're only using it a week a year. So it doesn't have to be farberware.
60-cup one, I think I paid
Okay, a teapot. A teapot is probably the worst possible thing to try to kosher, because that's sitting on your. If you use a teapot the way our parents use teapots, that means it's sitting on your stove all the time, and anything can drip on it, and anything gets to it, and therefore you should really get a teapot that is kosher for Pesach. Now the question came up: what about using an Everhot? You know those things that people have something in their house where you press a button and the water comes out boiling hot? So of course you can't use that on Shabbos or Yom Tov, but you can use it on Pesach when it's not Yom Tov or Shabbos, because again it's just boiling water coming out of it. You just clean it off, and you can use it. So if you have that situation, like in our house we have a Pesach kitchen, so we don't have that in our Pesach kitchen, but we use a hot water urn that we put aside. You know, after a while, the truth is, when you're talking to 20-year-olds, all they ought to buy everything. After a while, we sort of get stuff, right? I mean, we have stuff. I have dishes in my house for Pesach that we have never used ever. My mother has this great china she gave us for Pesach, right? We have always so many people we can never use them. The beautiful, bone china, we have never used it, and I'd like to use it. We don't want to make it for chametz, and I can't use it on Pesach. We're not going to use it like on a Wednesday for breakfast, so never used it.